The sun rises on our tumble down that gravelly road. My head tosses back and forth without permission. I run out of things to think about. All I can do now is feel. There's a sour ache in my tummy that would later be identified as an anxiety disorder. I dread what awaits for me at the end of that road, an awakening from this memory. It's not as if this is a particularly enjoyable one. It just happens to be concrete. Scarcity extends beyond materiality in this pea brain of mine. Where there might have otherwise been history, there now only exists that lingering sourness. The sun still rises, but I never see it. I remember movies. It was my favorite way to feel. I could lose myself in the histories outside of my own. 2.5 hours of sustained parenting. And now I'm here making my own movie, and I'm certain that the feelings I can verbalize are not my own. A memory came back to me recently, actually. I remember being small, even smaller than I feel now. I was crammed in the back seat with big siblings on either side of me. I was young enough to still have a head full of things to think about. But my thoughts were only consumed with one thing: the golden-haired Barbie girl. Her name still rings like sweet peaches on spun straw. My first friend. But my sister could interpret these special rumbles in my tummy in a way I wouldn't begin to understand until adulthood. Faggot, she called me. I didn't know that word exactly, but I knew that tone. I recognized the way her eyes lit up when she found a new way to take up space in the back seat. I understood the implication of my name being stitched into that old Katy Perry song. I wouldn't really understand the word until its echo reached my ears 15 years later. And now I come to understand it as a surprisingly effective and economically responsible method of conversion therapy. I was reminded today that when I was very young, before I was old enough to be called the F-slur, my family fell victim to chronic lice infestations. As far as poverty porn goes, this isn't a particularly sexy conviction. But poverty itself never felt quite as bad as that perpetual itch. This period of my life was characterized by filth, I suppose. I wasn't able to watch films containing characters I deemed dusty white people for years after. Hit too close to home. Shame was a filth that burrowed much deeper than any skin fungus could. A steady filth that confuses my current tummy rumbles. Itchies have been a reoccurring theme throughout my life. A little-known side effect of having fragile Jewish genetics is the combination of allergies, asthma, and eczema. The internet told me that the body reacts in eczema breakouts in order to cope with stress, as if having to tear those rashes off my skin wouldn't perpetuate the stress. With this newfound internet dogma, it would be safe to assume that the reason my eczema flares every time I visit home now would be because of stress. For the sake of the narrative, though, I think it's much more interesting to infer that I am just deeply allergic to my family. My dad has this theory that my allergies could be cured with exposure therapy. This idea led me to swallow a poison oak leaf one year. And it really did work. I didn't get rashes for years after. I thought this rule could be applied to further reaches than my skin ailments, so I tried to get over my aversion to him. Unfortunately, it had the reverse effect. I now know that for the sake of my health, my dad is best consumed in small doses. Looking back, my siblings weren't all bad. We have a collective memory of being orphaned during the daylight hours. Our parents might remember this differently. We found many avenues of entertainment, namely pummeling each other with rocks. These days were still preferred to the isolation felt in my since-expired memories. I'm sure space existed in between the times when no one else was there to remember for me, but it's easier to imagine it doesn't. I'm most skeptical of the advice meant to deliver me certainty. Will deep breaths really release me from decades of trauma? So for now, I try to pause and picture all the sunsets I've missed.